So you walk in, it's your first day of striking class. You're brand spanking new trying to try a new thing. This is the first thing that I will teach you in my class. This is the day one stance. It is the foundation on which we will build the beautiful house that is striking. Couple notes here. First thing, keep your hands up. By keeping your hands up, you don't have to move them that much to block incoming attacks. You're already pretty well defended. And when you're a beginner, little movement is good. Keep the elbows tucked in. That's going to protect your body. You get hit in the stomach, it hurts like a son of a gun. It knocks all the wind right out of you. And we've got our chin tucked. One little nick of the chin can put a man or a woman down. And that is not going to be us. Not when
or
my class
the woman
is being
who gets knocked out today.
Now
when it
we'll talk
comes to
about
the
feet position next.
Of the front foot,
only a
it's
slight turn of the front foot inside
That's gonna
towards the
make
center
it
of the
easier
body.
to
That's going to
block
make it so
low
that you can
kicks, which are
easily
big
block
in
a
mixed
low
martial
kick,
arts.
a low
In
attack.
this
This is
stance,
big in
if I
mixed
turn
martial
my
arts.
foot too far
Too
to the
much
inside,
turned in,
well,
and
then
the back
back
of your
my
knee will be
and
exposed,
my opponent will
allowing your
destroy
opponent to
my
absolutely
front leg.
shred that joint. The back foot is turned out slightly, almost parallel, perpendicular, to the front foot, so that I have a nice wide base. And I'm just going to have a nice steady rhythm going back and forth. When it comes to weight distribution, the weight is always about 60 to 70% on the front foot and about 30 to 40% on the back foot. That gives me a nice, comfortable weight distribution. Now, the length of my feet apart from each other is going to be about the distance of my shoulders, so shoulder width apart will give me a nice base. And the final thing that I will mention is you'll notice the shoulder is raised to provide additional protection to the chin. Anything we can do to protect that chin is good. This stance is like picking Crash Bandicoot in Crash Team Racing. Not any big positives or negatives, just a good balance of defense to offensive capabilities. That's why it is taught to beginners. Now, a striking art known as Muay Thai is huge in Thailand, and they use this stance, the Thai stance, to do it. So, the Thai stance has a few characteristics that really make it identifiable. The first thing is you gotta know Muay Thai is the art of 8 limbs. 2 hands, 2 elbows, 2 knees, 2 feet or shins, adding up to a total of 8 limbs. And what the Thai stance is meant to do is give you really easy access to all 8 of those limbs. Now, some arts like Lethwei, known as Burmese boxing, use the head as a 9th limb from this stance. That's a little too crazy for me. We're not going to really go over headbutts, but it is there. One noticeable thing is that the front foot bounces, and to do that, I'm going to keep the weight on my back foot, which allows me to make my lead foot very light. That's going to make it easier to block low kicks and easier to fire off of my back leg. Notice the bounce there. That's very traditional in Muay Thai, that little front foot bounce. The palms are kept facing forward. That's going to allow me to do things in Muay Thai you don't really do in other striking arts, like go to the clinch, grab and throw, parry, block, be able to access all my elbows. So palms forward is big in the Thai stance. Now, the Thai stance is great because you have access to all of your weapons and you're very well defended. The only drawback is it is kind of slow. It's kind of hard to move around from this position. You're more like a tank using the Thai stance than anything else. Now, the next one from the world of Taekwondo, karate, and maybe even a sprinkle of Kung Fu, we have the point fighting stance. First thing you'll notice is there's a very distinct rhythmic up and down bouncing. That's going to help keep your opponent guessing and assist with your movement, establishing that bouncing rhythm. You may have noticed that the hands are down, right? You see both of the hands in this circumstance are down. And we know that makes us extremely vulnerable to things like high kicks or punches. You'll also notice when it comes to my feet, here it comes here, that they're more turned in, much more turned in than the basic stance, which makes me weak against low kicks. Notice how the back of the knee is exposed there. However, there are some advantages to this stance. With the hands down, your shoulders are just much more relaxed. Try keeping your hands up for a long time. It is exhausting. And without your brain having to focus on keeping those shoulders tense, you're able to move much more quickly and focus more on your feet to move in any direction you want. So what this lacks in defense, it makes up for in mobility. And this stance is especially good at lateral movement. Getting in, striking, and then retreating very quickly is what this stance is all about. Now, when it comes to the feet being bladed, we know that makes you vulnerable to low kicks, but it comes with its own advantage. Less of my body is exposed to the target. You'll actually notice you can only really see one of my shoulders here, and my body is very bladed, making me a smaller target. So that is the advantage of turning on the side like that. Finally, we'll talk about weight distribution, about 60 to 70% on the back leg, and about 30 to 40% on the lead leg. Now, what that's going to do is allow your lead leg, your longest weapon, to specialize in the attacks of this stance. This stance is all about hitting with that long weapon very quickly, that lead leg, and then retreating. So remember that. Mobility and hitting with the lead leg when it comes to the point fighting stance. So this will cover the 3 fundamental stances. I hope to see you in part 2 for the advanced stances.